Hi everybody, FoxxC here, and welcome to another episode of FoxxBites. And today we're going to be talking about our sacred stories.
Harry Potter and the Search for a Sacred Story.
If you're even peripherally aware of the pop literature landscape, it's almost been impossible to avoid the epic meltdown by J.K. Rowling where she outed herself on social media as a bigoted, racist transphobe. And there's lots of stuff out there covering exactly how that comes up in her books, breaking down her statements. You don't know where to find them, links in the nethers. But I'm here to talk to people who are fans of the series and are feeling really betrayed right now. And I want to talk to you about sacred stories. And this is something that I've brought up in a previous video. One of my longer videos is about this topic, The Truth About Stories. It's also one of my favorite books about the philosophy of storytelling by a First Nations author, Thomas King. And what this is about for a lot of you is that you have held Harry Potter to be a sacred story. And for many people, Harry Potter was the first story that they ever held to be sacred for themselves. And for a lot of people, I think it's easiest to relate to a sacred story when we think about religion, or we think about mostly religion. But for many, many people in the modern world, the sacred stories that we hold on to are pop culture stories. We're supposed to hold on to and form foundations. But in the modern world, people generally don't have a religion, and it's the pop culture stories that we hold on to as our sacred stories. And speaking from personal experience, it is very, very, very alienating to discover that somebody who has created a world that you have invested a lot of emotional energy into is kind of horrible. And that horribleness comes through in their work. I've linked below a really interesting essay about Rowling and the problematic aspects of not just her adult mystery novels published under a pen name of Robert Galbraith, but in Harry Potter itself, which is worth a look. But I think what I really want to get across isn't to rag on this person or to hate on people for still liking that world and having all these attachments to it, because I know how hard it is to get over a story that is such a deep part of you that you keep referring to it for your entire life. And for me, I have had to go through this more than once. And I may have to again. But some filmmakers that I have loved or have enjoyed their films and then gone back and watched them from a different perspective and just and authors. I have read the Harry Potter series, all of them at least 3 times, and the first 3 books like probably 10. I'm very familiar, and it has a place in academic study in the canon of colonial English literature. And the way that it relates to the magical world and kind of this history of how English fantasy storytellers have used some philosophical concepts to create their worlds. You can see the same stuff in Tolkien, in C.S. Lewis, in Shakespeare, and in like the Arthurian legends. It's deep. But with that comes a lot of the baggage that comes with that culture, and Rowling is full of it too, the racism and the exclusion and all of that. And so I think this is an opportunity for a lot of people to engage with this material differently if they're going to engage with it um, and withdraw their funding from somebody who really doesn't need that money anymore. And listen to voices like mine and other trans people who have stories to tell and create really cool fantasy worlds that aren't exclusionary and really want to challenge not necessarily the status quo in the way that I might, but really want to challenge your ideas and make you see the world from a broader and different perspective, not just a cis white privileged one. And now you have a chance. If you're feeling that story, that Harry Potter story, isn't as sacred as it was, maybe that's an opportunity to find out if there's another story that can take its place. Because that's the cool thing about our personal stories, is that we can take anything and we can make it a part of ourselves. And we can take those same things and separate them and say, this is a story that I can't have be sacred for me anymore. Because when one story is sacred for you, it means other stories cannot be. And if you're holding on to a sacred story that is full of hatred and racism and bigotry, that's going to start to come through in the other aspects of your life. And it's something that we need to interrogate in all of our narratives, my own included. And that's really what I want to have to say about this. I don't want to be here ragging on people for enjoying what they love, but just to understand how we create stories and stories create us. And in that process, we can lose ourselves, or we can take them and make them a part of ourselves, but we can also separate ourselves from them. We can make that choice and examine them and decide if we really want that story to be our sacred story, or if we need to go looking for another one that fills our new needs better. And I don't think that's an unhealthy thing to do. I think that's part of how we grow as people. So if you would like to join me in finding some new sacred stories, because there's some really cool ones out there, let's go on some adventures. Anyhow, I've been FoxxC. This has been FoxxBites. And if you've enjoyed watching my content, like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support my show and keep me on the air, you can make a donation at my Patreon or buy me and my crew a coffee at coffee.com/FoxxTales. And I will see you next time, pretty soon.